America's Morning Headquarters has you covered into the mid-morning hours. Jen Carfagno and Alex Wallace are here with a look at what's coming up at 9 a.m. There's a lot going on.
I mean, yes, in the weather, you guys are talking about it, the flooding, the lake effect, snowfall, but how about how all of that is affecting what you eat?
I'm intrigued.
Absolutely. Yes.
How is it affecting us?
Yes.
Can you tell us?
Yes. I mean, it goes back to extreme temperatures, floods, drought, all putting a strain on your wallet. And these weather events are driving up food prices across the country.
I mean, we all see it. We go to the grocery store, right? And we're going to take a look at what is being done to fix this growing problem overall and also highlight
crawfish.
What are they?
Mud bugs.
Is that what you call them? What do you call them?
Crawfish.
Crawfish. Do you guys eat crawfish?
Yes, and this is very concerning that it might be a problem.
You're a no to the
I've never had a crawfish.
You haven't? You've never been when they pour it on the table?
I see it, and then I'm like, thank you guys.
I'll try it.
I'll try it.
I'll probably have to peel them for them.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it. I have no idea.
Many of you have had snow. Raise your hand if you're across western New York. But some of your bigger snows that you've had, at least in the past recent weeks. Parrish in New York saw 10 inches of snow. East Concord in New York saw 8.7 inches of snow. But everyone that's got a color here has had at least some snow, including near the Cleveland area, north of Pittsburgh. Punxsutawney got some snow out of this year, and a few spots, some bigger totals up into Vermont, where the village of Alpenwald, 7.5 inches of snowfall. It just looks so cyclonic. It was the best way that I could think of to describe the radar right now. You kind of see all the flow of what's happening on the radar. And we've got the wind barbs on here as well. Our low pressure actually way up here, up into Canada. I'll put that on so you can see where that is. Here's a low pressure. Everything just kind of flowing around it. We're getting some help from the lake, some enhancement, but just the cyclonic flow itself is helping to bring us some of these snow showers that are still flying around out there today. Winds are going to be gusty at times. We see that right now around the Detroit area and Cleveland too, maybe even up over 30 or 35 miles per hour through the day today. Again, just a very blustery, wintry kind of feel to the air out there all across the region. And we'll even see some showers, maybe some rain, maybe some snow mixing in from time to time into Massachusetts. This is as you get through your Wednesday evening. We'll watch for that all through the zone. Again, I would call it lake enhancement, not true lake effect, but we're getting some lake enhancement happening out here. And by the time we get to Thursday, we'll start to see that wind down as the low pressure system itself starts to move on out. But we'll still get a little more accumulation, especially downwind of the lakes, again, because of that lake enhancement. South of Buffalo, north of Erie, that lake effect prone area. Syracuse points south might get a little bit more, and we'll still watch for some snow up into Maine, where we could see about 5 to 8 inches plus there into northeastern Maine. Closer view of the Buffalo area, you can see it's the south towns. It's 1 or 2 inches. It's not a huge snowmaker out there, but boy, either Alex, you were wishing to get snow this winter since you didn't have a ton, and this is your last chance, you're thinking, or you're done with it. I think that might be what the majority is thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, officially spring, right? But
out there, we do have two systems that we are tracking heading to the East Coast. Now, let's look at tomorrow's forecast. Greg talked about this one down here to the south, bringing the rain and the storms. We also have actually this first system that's going to be crossing over the northern tier, heads through the Great Lakes into the northeast here. So we'll watch that. But it's really the both of them that we're going to see bring a decent amount of rain coming in this weekend to the northeast here. So this is one model, the European model, showing maybe even 3 to 5 inches of rain in South Jersey. We'll watch around the Delmarva for that chance of 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. The GFS model, not quite as rainy, but definitely has some significant rain, at least a couple of inches, 1 to 2 here, or maybe even 2 to 3 in some of these same spots. So we're going to keep an eye on possible flash flooding, especially in eastern New Jersey. We're going to watch all the way down into Delaware, maybe parts of eastern Maryland as well. And with a system that is like this, wind is going to be a factor as well. So we'll look at that. But when you see a lot of isobars, these white lines, you know from watching us here on the Weather Channel that there's going to be some wind. So this is the European model. We're going to keep an eye on this low pressure, heads off the coast, off of North Carolina Saturday and then to Sunday, and then moves out. Let's look at the GFS model, and a similar situation where we're going to see rainfall again, some heavy at times, eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia. This is now 5 o'clock in the morning. That low tracks a little farther to the north. The position of it maybe will matter a little bit into how far south that some of that cold air can be able to come. But, both have a fairly windy scenario and fairly wet scenario for the Mid-Atlantic. So just to tie it back all in to the Cherry Blossom Festival, it's going to be a tough weekend. We've got those winds at times that could be gusty. This is your wind gust forecast. That was Saturday. This is Sunday, starting to improve a bit through the day on Sunday, but still, breezy out there. 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts are possible, and you'll see all those blossoms flying through the air. It'll be one of those circumstances where sometimes you think, wait a minute, is that snow? Is that, what is that? No, it's just the cherry blossoms.
Yeah. Kind of sucks, right? We got the nice bloom, and then now they're going to get blown around out there.
I feel like every year, though, this becomes a challenge, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know, this how nature goes, Well, coming up, we're going to talk more about winters and how they're changing.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about extreme weather and food, and which ones?
Well, Mike chimes in and says, hey.
We were talking about that, other crustaceans as well, like crabs also have had some extreme weather issues over the years.
Yeah, so many other things, right? We were also talking about cereal and how that is becoming crazy in terms of how much they cost.
Yeah, well, we were looking at just the ingredients. Rice has had extreme weather issues. Chocolate has had extreme weather issues. Grapes and wine. Need I go on?
Coffee.
Keep going.
I could.
We literally could.
Blueberries. There's such a long list. We were thinking of making that a poll for today is to choose which one, but the list is so
long.
extensive.
We didn't have enough choices to put and populate in the poll. Yeah.
Potatoes. I could keep going. Did I mention olives?
Oh my goodness.
I'll stop right there.
We could do without the olives. I'm good with that. I'm joking.
Well, you can go to Threads, send us your comments, and share your pics and video with us using the hashtag YesTV.
Well, Jen is back, and so we...
Well, space, I suppose, is limitless.
Pretty...
What's impressive to me is that it works.
Right, and they don't just run into each other. It's just...
The photographer I know brought a Starlink satellite with him, just in case, always had it, needed it on the shoot.
Wow.
And it all worked.
Amazing. Well, from short trips to long...
Maine is warming up fast, and its winters even faster. Climate change is taking a hit on the state's ice levels, which has direct impacts on Maine livelihoods.
Now, it also threatens a cultural tradition, ice harvesting. The Weather Channel's Katie Tutrone traveled to South Bristol's annual ice harvest to witness how a town is trying to keep this virtually obsolete practice from melting away.
Really interesting.
It really is. The uses of that, and really brings you back to how sad it may be because it's getting lesser and lesser and lesser. And we're seeing that in real time.
Obviously, the tradition, but I actually did not know that it's better ice.
Right.
Better ice.
It lasts longer, apparently. Yeah. Look at that.
Look, this year it hasn't been that cold. It hasn't been that snowy. So this is look at the departures and snowfall. And just focus in up in Burlington, Vermont, since we're talking about Maine. We'll get close to it up there. We're nearly 40 inches behind with snowfall.
Deposits. Maybe making up some ground, though. We do have a system to impact us here end of the week, early week. Next week, bring some snow. Both models bring some heftier snows to interior New England.
Well, extreme weather has had a big impact on the...
and actually we were talking about this the other day. It's like, Duluth, Minnesota, as of now, and some other locations in the upper Midwest, if it didn't snow anymore, we would set records for the all-time lowest or least snowy winter. But we know we're not done. It could snow in May.
You can't write it off yet. And so we're watching a couple of systems. And you've got a busy southern track of storms. You were talking about this earlier with maybe some thunderstorms, but busy to the north as well. Yeah,
this is a system that's kind of complex. It's going to be part in the plains, and then there's sneaky development here across the Gulf of Mexico, which might curve up the coast for a nor'easter.
And how much, do these two work together? Does the first one just go through and then the other one has plenty of space to come up and rain? We've got a lot of moisture in the forecast. The Euro is pretty rainy, especially in the mid-Atlantic.
It is pretty aggressive, isn't it? A few inches with rain, wind along the coast, maybe some minor coastal flooding there. And then, of course, the GFS, maybe not as, but I don't know. But either way.
2 to 3 inches is still a lot of rain. And
a lot of rain.
We've actually had plenty. It's not that we're in a drought. We haven't had a lot of snow. We're kind of in a snow drought, but we're not in a water drought.
Right.
So possible flash flooding. The other factor, I think, is going to be the onshore flow. And Monday's a full moon. So we're starting to see those tides ramp up because of that. So I'll have to watch the time of high tide.
That's right. Anytime you have a coastal low moving up, and you see the isobars kind of get pretty tightly packed here just off the East Coast. There's going to be an onshore wind. It's not going to follow exactly those isobars, but close enough. And if you get that coastal low development, that's just going to exacerbate the situation.
So that's the Euro. You see the position of the low down there off the coast of North Carolina, and then it moves out. But the GFS is slightly different with its position of the low, and all these little details matter when it comes to your specific forecast.
Yeah. And, you know, as Jen mentioned, either way, no matter what model you look at, European or GFS, it's going to bring rain to the coast and snow in some cases in the interior.
The GFS showing a little better chance of that, perhaps. Not necessarily in Boston, but, man, not too far from there. You might be training for the Boston Marathon, and you might be running in snow this weekend.
Not for me.
Yeah. So, Alex, speaking of snow, we do have some snow chances farther north.
We south are working overtime to protect crops from a late freeze as spring officially begins.
And that's one of the frequent challenges for America's farmers, battling extreme temperature swings, floods, and drought, all driven by climate change. And we feel the effects every time we go to the grocery store out to eat with higher prices for food.
Now, NBC News national climate reporter Chase Kane talked with the chief scientist for the U.S. Department of Agriculture about the growing problem and what they're doing about it. Wow, just amazing. You start hearing some of the numbers of the crop losses. It's not like
it struck me just how widespread it was too with the map. You know, the map was nearly covered, at least in some extent, by like a version of color. Not made the worst, not the worst, but at least some impact everywhere. All right. Well, coming up next hour, families along
the lakes wide open. I mean,
they've been all winter.
Any ice on these lakes? You're really helping to fuel some of the snow that's been flying around these Great Lake waters.
You know, what's interesting is we haven't had more lake effect or lake enhanced snow.
Right.
It hasn't been, the air hasn't been that cold.
We've had the open waters, but we haven't had the cold coming across them. So, yeah.
Yes. So, well, we've got that look out there today. Oh, by the way, I did want to mention this. Veronica, thank you. Our weather producer Veronica put this on for me. They're doing a statewide drill for tornadoes today in Ohio at 9:50. So right about now, I believe we're close to it. We're like 30 seconds away. So I didn't want you to be surprised.
Yes, don't be alarmed.
If you hear sirens. Yes.
You're like, wait a minute, what's happening?
Yeah.
Just a test.
Right.
All right, well, let's talk about what else we'll be facing. And you notice what we've got right now is, well, snow shower activity here through the afternoon. We'll keep that going here again in and around the lakes, driving across these zones. And it's going to be a bit breezy, too.
Yes, and so it's going to have that blustery, wintry, almost like a kind of more February feel to the air than March. Although March, I mean, this is not untypical for March.
Right, exactly. This is not like unheard of stuff that we're finding. Now, as far as how much it's going to get a chance to add up out there for you, this is what's to come through tomorrow morning. Not a whole lot. I mean, in the areas here, maybe 1 to 3 inches, and elevation is going to play a big role in who maybe sees a little bit more than just the grassy surfaces.
Right, and so, you know, it's not a ton of snow to be shoveling, et cetera, but it is snow to remind us that we can get it, and we can get bigger snowstorms in March too. So it's another one coming through this weekend. We'll be talking more about that.
Things getting busy and busy in the winter department, but also, Dr. Postel, in the severe thunderstorm department.
Yeah, the southern.
The big one impacted, and it'd be interesting to see how just the grapes themselves evolve to the conditions, right? Because I do think to some point, Mother Nature will evolve on its own, too.
You would think, right? I mean, we've seen it over and over again.
Right.
How long is it going to take for that to happen?
Right.
But it has to, or we're kind of just screwed.
And there'll be short-term sort of amounts of production that I think will be impacted.
Yes, absolutely. Well, all you have to do is work your way over to the threads, and you can vote in the poll. We got a poll there, as well as share your comments. We'll try to highlight a few as we work our way through we are here with you through the mid-morning hours to get you ready for the big events in your neighborhood.
The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast.
Yeah, and yesterday we asked you how you like to spend your time in the backyard. But today, you're going to have to stay indoors in some locations where it's just too wintry. How about this? Western New York. Well, would you want to garden or grill with snow coming down like that?
But I would walk out. I cannot come in, actually. When it's snowing like beautifully like this, I just go outside, stand, look around.
Just enjoy that quietness of the snow.
Yeah. I used to, growing up in the Northeast, I used to go, yeah, it was great.
Look at us getting all excited about snow in March, which usually you don't, because I know, like, it sits differently this year, doesn't it?
You just haven't had it. So when you see it now, it's like, yay!
Some places are running like near record deficits. You know, we'll see how it all ends up because we're not done completely with winter.
Nope.
But right now, we are running at a record pace in many cases for the least snowy winters.
Yes.
Today, so we're jetting off into the big deal where
already from what's fallen in the Northeast. And you take a look at some of these spots like East Concord, 8.7. That's over here in Western New York. This is in New York. Also in Parrish, New York, 10 inches of snow. The village of Alpenwald, 7.5 inches of snow in Vermont. So yeah, look, that's the kind of snow you might have to shovel. We're dealing with some lighter amounts, but all across northwestern Pennsylvania, Punxsutawney, little new snow there. State College, I was looking at your observations. You had a couple of hours of some snow showers, but not a whole lot measurable in the area. But yes, it looks very wintry. And as I looked at the latest radar this morning and just the general flow that's happening out here, it's so cyclonic. You can see the airflow around a cyclone or a low pressure system is cyclonic. And you've got our low up here and you've got the general flow just kind of moving around. And this really allows for some lake enhancement to go on. I wouldn't say it's pure lake effect, but it's definitely lake enhancement. The lakes are obviously unfrozen for the most part, and we've got some colder air now moving over top of them, and it's windy too. I mean, winds are anywhere from 20, 30, even 35 miles per hour plus out there. We'll see that through the day today. Buffalo, Erie, maybe even gusting over 40. This is all through this evening. So we'll get these snow showers that fly through the air. Most of the spots here won't get a ton of accumulation. There's a couple areas that we want to focus in on, and mainly downwinds of Lake Erie and Ontario is where we'll get that chance of accumulation. The snow town south of Buffalo, 1 to 3 inches. You look at spots now in the Tug Hill Plateau, perhaps we get 1 to 3 inches. Now, as our cyclone moves over closer to Maine, we'll get maybe some decent totals coming out there, 3 to 5 inches plus in some spots. But for the most part, this is a 1 to 2 inch snow in western New York. Syracuse may not get anything, but south of there might get 1 or 2 inches of snow. I mean, I know that's not much, is it, right, in terms of what you're used to up here for snowfall. Even in March snows can still be big. We're looking at about a 1 to 2 inch here for most that even get accumulation. And for the most part, Alex, it should be on the grass and not necessarily on the roads.
Absolutely. Well, it is.
Rising seas can be a factor here. Let's watch what happens with this weekend storm as we see our two systems, 1 and 2, but in particular number 2 down here, move through, eventually become a coastal storm, and this one will impact us along the coast with rain, wind here all the way from the mid-Atlantic up into the Northeast. So both systems at play. I mean, system number 1 will come in and bring some rain, but the number 2 system is the one that has a bit more potential to be quite the wind maker for us here into the mid-Atlantic. And the fact that we have both of these, rain is going to add up. This is the European model showing us 3 to 5 inches of rain possible for Saturday into Monday morning. That's in South Jersey, parts of Delaware. The European model, or the GFS model, is a little different in placement of the low pressure and everything else. The moisture kind of spread out a bit more, but there's still a widespread 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 inches of rain, especially along the eastern seaboard, right along the I-95 corridor. So there is a chance for rainfall that could cause flooding or flash flooding in Jersey and Delaware, maybe Maryland, and we're going to keep an eye all the way down here into eastern North Carolina as well. It plays out like this here. This is your forecast now Friday into Saturday, and you can see both systems coming in. Number 1 brings some snow chances to the north. Then we've got 1 plus 2 bringing in a lot of rain. North Carolina, Virginia, pretty rainy Saturday for you. We see by Saturday evening. Now it's really just along the coast, and by Sunday what we're left with is a lot of wind, very blustery conditions behind, but based on the European model, everything would be off the coast by this point. Now let's look at the GFS here. Again, it's very similar. We'll have some snow to the north. System number 1 with that. Watching our low pressure form a little farther south, but then move up a little farther north right along the coast here. Either way, we will get rain, maybe a little bit, ending a little bit earlier on Saturday. Based on that, it's too soon to give you an exact forecast here, but you should plan for some active weather on Saturday, some rain and some wind into Sunday as well. And that wind, look at Sunday's forecast here. Along the coast especially, we could see winds gusting 30, 40 plus miles per hour. It'll be a north wind, so we'll see how that'll affect us on the beaches up towards Scituate here. More of a northeast wind would be more of a problem, I think. Wind direction is everything. You guys know that. Like, all these subtleties in the weather, the wind direction matters.
Yeah, I mean, coming off that ocean can make a difference in terms of the type that you get.
And it's going to cause more erosion, which we've been worried about.
It's amazing how it can, like, just a 10 or 20 degree shift on the compass can give you a completely different weather outcome.
These little details that people don't realize matter so much to their forecast.
Well, people are flocking to the tidal base.
So concerned about the extreme weather and food, the extreme weather and its impact on food. And I also want to know, which ones concern you the most?
Well, this first viewer said,
Really, like
That's everything.
worldwide, exactly. Everything, essentially, almost contains that.
yeah, and I went down a rabbit hole of looking up rice, and the impacts are around the world. It's not just, it's not just international, it's U.S. farming too with rice fields. It's an international, worldwide impact.
Absolutely. Well, all you have to do is hit the threads, share your comments with us. We have a poll there as well. You can vote in that. We love to hear from you.
In crazy condition.
No crime or whatever emergency need.
Yeah.
One of the first ways I learned how to drive
You even knew how to drive?
when I was like in permit level.
Wow, that's good, Greg. That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, now I live in the South, so
Don't put that to good use, do you?
not so much.
We'll stay on top of the threats to your day here.
But look, better than what you're going to get. So let's talk about that. Today's forecast is a nice one. We get up into the 70s pretty much everywhere. 75 looks like the most common number. Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Tampa, West Palm, we're getting to 77. Miami, Key West, we're going to be nearly 80 today. Beautiful day out there. Sunshine. Enjoy it. Go outside. Enjoy the weather. We do have some rip current issues. We're going to watch that along the East Coast. Last week, my parents were at Vero Beach, and they sent me a picture just to show me the water. And I was like, oh, it's beautiful. And I think that might be a rip current. And then, yes, they got a message from the Weather Service here, rip current advisory in effect. So, yes, there have been some rip currents recently. Make sure that you're paying attention to lifeguards here. Remember what to do if you get caught in one. You want to float. Try not to panic. And then if you feel strong enough, swim parallel to the shore and get back in out of the rip current. Now, we've got a look at tomorrow's forecast, even warmer. Temps are going to be in the 80s. Pensacola is still in the 70s, but everyone else is going to be in the 80s here. Tampa, 82 degrees. Again, enjoy this nice weather. No rain just yet. Now we get into Friday, and we're going to start to look at the risk of some rain coming in, and maybe even thunderstorms. A couple areas to watch. South Florida in particular, West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. We're going to see that chance of storms. Your Friday forecast starts rainy and finishes rainy throughout the area. You see that coming into Saturday as well. Then by Sunday, things start to break up a little bit, but still a few rain chances lingering, at least into the east coast of Florida. Your family's along the Gulf Coast about this.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
Yeah, like, oh, no, really? Still? It's like, come on. Well, we might have more chances at that kind of weather for the Northeast upcoming.
Yeah, so we've got two systems that we're tracking right now, 1 and 2, north and south. Number 2 in the south is going to be rain and maybe even thunderstorms. Greg was talking about this. The northern one has some snowfall potential.
Yeah, across parts of the Great Lakes, and then both kind of move eastbound, and by the weekend, probably bring unsettled weather all the way from Florida to Maine.
Yeah.
Right?
It's windy, it's rainy, it's raw. So the European model showing us where some of the heaviest of rain might be. This is Saturday to Monday. A lot of this is really Saturday. 3 to 5 inches in Jersey.
It's a lot. This is like a nor'easter, right? We'll have a wind direction depending on the development of this area system number 2, I guess it was, that's rolling up the coast. We could see some coastal flooding.
Yeah.
Lots of impacts besides the weather.
And, the models are slightly different, exact placement of where the low will be and maybe where the heaviest of rain will be, but both showing a footprint of some bigger rainfall, 2 to 3 inches there on the GFS. So that may mean flooding.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility here issued by the Weather Prediction Center. So really all the way from coastal New England down through the mid-Atlantic, heads up an onshore wind that may be, pretty substantial depending on the strength of this low, could bring that flooding.
The time of high tide, we're getting towards full moon on Monday, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. The winds will be the strongest on Sunday. This is your Friday forecast. Friday's the day everything comes together, and then Saturday it's here. It's like preparing for the party on Friday. The party happens on Saturday.
Yeah, and this has it all, right? We have rain, even some thunderstorms probably in Florida, and then snow on the northern side. Again, this is the European Center's forecast, but brings an area of low pressure here off the Cape Hatteras region and then out to sea with some colder, drier air in tow.
Yeah, so you can see Sunday and then Monday, then it's just about the cleanup. Now, this is the GFS model. Similar timing. Friday, everything's coming together. Here we go on Saturday. The rain and snow is here.
Either way, it's going to be kind of a mess, at least first part of the weekend, but then we dry out second part of the weekend.
Yeah, so Sunday a drier day. All right, Alex here, but let's focus in on the snow to the north here. What are the odds that we'll get some?
But the shortage is more than just a blow to the economy. It's affecting the state's way of life.
Dr. Mike Strain, the commissioner.
And you kind of alluded to it, right? Crawfish boils, popular during Lent, Mardi Gras. How has the shortage really impacted some of the recent celebrations?
Well,
It has me in the mood for all of it, the etouffee, the crawfish boil. But we've talked about a lot of extreme weather. We had extreme heat last year, a summer that was, top top echelon when it comes to heat. We had the drought, we had the saltwater intrusion in the Mississippi River, and then the winter cold snap. Is any one of those kind of the biggest problem? And going forward here, what kind of weather do you need to have this recovery?
The biggest problem was the long-term.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Mike Strain, commissioner there of the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry, we certainly appreciate you joining us, and certainly our fingers crossed that things can turn around there.
Well, interesting, though, when you look at what type of extreme weather is most likely as we get to see our changing climate, it's heat and drought. Right. It does not bode well for this crawfish industry. Our question of the day is about there with no railing on the edge. I think there's a lot to do on that roof. There's a lot of equipment.
Yes, exactly.
And you just look right over the edge.
Gotta be careful up there, right?
Oh boy, especially in that slippery snow. Okay, first full day of spring now, and it's looking and feeling more like midwinter.
The lakes, well, they are wide open, which essentially means they are not iced over, right? We just haven't seen a whole lot of ice out there, and that can really help fuel bands of snow coming off of the lakes. Although we haven't seen a ton of that this winter.
No, we just haven't had the cold air, really. And so we've got no more snow showers out there today. We're going to be watching, areas south of Buffalo, the typical snowtown areas. It's not a huge, big snowmaker, but you'll get snow. Yeah,
snow, and it's going to be windy out there as well. I mean, look at Syracuse as we get towards the rush hour, maybe 30 to 35 mile per hour winds. And if we get a snow band coming on through, visibility drops down to nothing at that point, and it could be tough for travels.
Yes, and so we'll watch that through this evening. Then we really focus in on northern New England and mainly northern Maine for getting some of the bigger wind and snow coming in as our cyclone itself moves over that area.
So things do get a chance to kind of wind down a bit once we get into Thursday, latter part of the day. You mentioned Jenna here in the Maine where it hangs on a little longer, maybe some higher totals there. Much lighter across New York State.
Yeah, but everyone else, it's very unproductive snow. So, yes, there'll be snowflakes flying around, maybe even Cleveland. You could still see a few more today in lower Michigan, but you're not likely to get much accumulation.
Well, how about we check in on the threat for thunderstorms? Because, spring is upon us now, and, of course, now we start to think a little bit more about severe weather.
Yeah, we do, especially
revisit our question of the day. We've been talking about extreme weather and the impact it's having on different foods and crops that are out there, and wondering if you're concerned about that, and which ones are you most concerned about?
Well, Kathy says it's hard.
It's tough. No
doubt
about
the cereal prices?
Let's not even get on that.
Alex and I send each other pictures at the grocery store because they've gotten really high with pricing.
I mean, it's almost to the point of, is this even real? This should not be a $10 cereal.
Yeah, but looking through some of the foods that are impacted by extreme weather, it's rice, it's wheat, the makings of cereal.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's tough out there. Well, you can share with us, of course. Keep voting in the poll there on Thread.
Yeah, that March Mess kicking off March Madness here this weekend. But meanwhile, it is snowing. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast with all the weather.
Right. So yesterday we asked you how you like to spend time in your backyard. But today you may want to stay indoors, maybe not. I don't know, depending on how you like this kind of weather. This is Western New York State. Would you rather garden or grill in that? How about that?
Probably grill. But either way, if you've been lacking in the snow, which a lot of us have here in the Northeast, you may have seen this and said, and look, we got some pictures out of it.
I mean, you got a whole nother month to get through before you're gardening up here. It's probably not till May. Probably like Mother's Day. Maybe that might even be early.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So when you have the snow coming down, the green grass, and the roads that are wet rather than white, it's a late season event, kind of like what we're seeing here. We're jetting off into today's big deal with a look at where...
Mark, out there, I mean, we've got some decent snowfall totals coming in. This is what we've seen so far in East Concord, New York. We picked up 8.7, Parrish, New York, 10 inches. While the village of Alpenwald here in Vermont, we picked up 7.5 inches. And you can see plenty of other spots like on Interstate 81 where, we've picked up more than 5 or 6 inches of snowfall. So yes, it looks like winter. Your yard is covered here. In many cases, maybe you got a little snow on your walkway out to your driveway, that kind of thing. But for the most part, you can see it's confined up here to New York State, coming in off the lakes. The lake enhancement has been everything, really helping to squeak out any of that snowfall in terms of bigger accumulations. Now, this is a look at the latest satellite, the radar, and I looked at both the satellite and the radar this morning, and I just thought to myself, it looks so cyclonic. And when you have a low pressure, and that's spinning up here, you have a low pressure, the flow around it is cyclonic. You kind of get a sense of that here in the wind barbs that we've got painted on the map here, just in the general movement of the radar echoes. And when you have cyclonic flow moving over open lakes like we have, they're unfrozen, you can get some lake enhancement and sometimes lake effect. I think what we're seeing out there is some lake enhancement happening, coming in off of Lake Erie, south of Buffalo. It's pretty windy. It's pretty blustery. It's very wintry-like out there in terms of the feel to the air. Temps are running below average, and the wind with the 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts that you're going to see through today is going to drive at least 10 degrees off that temperature with the wind chill factor. So all of it coming together to produce a pretty blustery day for you ahead into tonight and tomorrow, too, into parts of Maine, hanging on with some snowfall there, which may add up to about 5 to 8 inches of additional snowfall coming in. Elsewhere, it'll be tapering off as we get into your Thursday. So in terms of snowfall amounts, most spots you see, it's not much more than 1 to 3, and it's really more like 1. Very unproductive snow showers that are out there, except for northern Maine, where we do get that chance of coming in with 5 to 8 inches of snowfall. Buffalo for us, south of town, probably an inch. Most spots not getting much more than that. South of Syracuse as well. Tug Hill Plateau, maybe an inch or 2. That's the level of snow we're getting, Alex. And even Old Forge, I saw some video that we had from there earlier today here. The roads aren't even snow covered.
Yeah, we may see a bit more.
Is really the onshore wind that will drive up the surf, which will take away the sand. So let's see where and when that could happen. So Greg talking about the systems in the south here and the chance for storms. We also have our system to the north, which Alex is talking about. I'm going to bring them together and take it all the way to the East Coast this weekend. Here comes the rain here. The system number 1 to the north will have a snowy side to it as well. Number 2 comes in, and this becomes a coastal low. And depending on just how strong it gets, exact position, we'll probably see some onshore flow, which could create some coastal erosion. So that'll be one factor. But either way, regardless of exact track, we've got the chance of getting some heavy rainfall because of both systems. So this is the European model, 3 to 5 inches of rain in parts of South Jersey into Delaware. We've got a large area of 2 to 3 all along the I-95 here. And then if you look at the GFS model, it's similar in terms of that 2 to 3 inch amount of rainfall. It doesn't have maybe the 3 to 5, but definitely a footprint of some heavier rain stretched out a little bit more. So there is that risk of flooding and flash flooding with this kind of rain. Most of it's coming in one day. We've got possible flash flooding from Delaware up through Jersey. Keep an eye on Long Island as well. The Euro model takes our southern system, brings it in. Rain comes into South Carolina, North Carolina Saturday. Really a lot of the East Coast is rainy in some shape or form, or snowy, as you can see up to the north there into Maine, perhaps all the way down to the coast in Portland. But here's our low pressure, so we'll watch that move out by Sunday. Still windy in its wake. And then we look at your forecast from the GFS. Again, similar, just a slightly different placement in the low. So watch this here. Starts into Friday. Here comes the rain moving up through the south. Friday into Saturday. It's very rainy here in Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, in the middle of all that. There's the low. Look how far north it is, up into Maine. In this case, it would be just mainly a chilly rain for you in Portland. So that position of the low does matter for some details in your forecast for sure. But in general, unsettled Saturday, Sunday, the precip moving out, but then really windy on Sunday here. Winds maybe even gusting over 40 miles per hour, especially along the coast here. Spring storms, I mean, they can bring it all, like this one will. They won't have a lot of severe weather in the east, though, as it won't have any, I don't think, by the time it gets there.
Too chilly.
Yeah.
Too much of a wedge factor, especially in the southeast.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's going to be fun. Enjoyable weather, right?
That's an east cool wind for many of us that don't like it in the southeast. That's what that means. But anyway, hey, people are flocking to
how the extreme weather may have an impact on our food, and which ones are you concerned about? We got to pull this up. You can vote in that. And of course, we love the comments like Chase, who says,
anyone who's been to the grocery store can say that for sure over the past couple years.
And it's everything.
2 years, I'd say.
Yeah, it's been about that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough out there. I mean, even for just like bread.
Some of the basic things that are required to make other foods are also more expensive, so it just keeps going down the line.
Yeah. Good point, Greg. We go to Threads, send us your comments, and share your pics and video with us using the hashtag YesTV. A platypus snagged. I feel like that one would have been a good one. I don't know. I have a lot to learn about surfing. I got to get Jordan to teach me. Beautiful weather. You saw the beautiful weather out there in St. Augustine. Temperatures today topping out in the mid to upper 70s. That's the case across most of Florida, near 80 in Key West and Miami, Pensacola near 70. Couple spots with some rip current risks today. We'll keep an eye on that along the East Coast here, even up there towards St. Augustine where we were watching. But especially near West Palm, it is a high risk of rip currents today. That onshore flow, the reason why here. Just if you're going to swim near guarded beaches and pay attention to what the lifeguards are saying. And always swim swim with a friend. Tomorrow's forecast looks even better weather-wise. Got more 80s if you're trying to get to the beach or play some golf. The weather looks nice, but by the weekend things are changing, and we bring in the chance of thunderstorms. Friday, possible severe. Couple spots to keep an eye on. Tampa, Fort Myers, Naples, Cape Coral's in that, West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, all with the chance of storms. Possible severe weather. So we watch the rain comes in on Friday. It's very widespread through the whole southeast and Florida. Just focusing on some of the spring break locations, we see that continue into Saturday. By Saturday, it's starting to taper off. Sunday is looking better, maybe except for the east coast of Florida, lingering with a few rain showers there. And families along the Gulf Coast have been particularly hit hard. That is the thing. March is a month where you try.
Yep.
Now, two systems this week will both try to bring some active weather, and they both will succeed in different ways. Top one will bring some snow, which we'll be talking about, but the bottom one brings a lot of rain.
It will bring rain over the coming days. Maybe a little bit of severe weather also later on tonight, and then again tomorrow as it moves on to the east. And then, it's all going to move eastbound and bring unsettled weather from Florida to Maine, and probably going into the first part of the weekend.
And guess when?
The timing is perfect.
The weekend, yet again. This forecast of just forecasting rain for the weekend. I bet if we go back to the beginning of the year, we have to do this segment. It feels like that would have been pretty right. Like, yes, we get rain on the weekends.
Yeah, you didn't have to know anything about the weather, how to forecast. Was it going to weekend? I mean, is there going to be a weekend upcoming?
Yes.
Then it's going to rain.
Then it's going to rain.
Yes, and we have that again. No matter what model you choose, it's some flavor of rain.
Yeah, now Digger was a little rainier, maybe 3 to 5 as opposed to 2 to 3, but both have a pretty large footprint of heavy rainfall in similar areas. So we're highlighting already here from the Weather Prediction Center where there's possible flash flooding, eastern Delaware, New Jersey, maybe up to Long Island.
Yeah, and that onshore wind, depending on the development of the area of low pressure off the coast, that can be pretty strong. And it's just going to be like a nor'easter feel, kind of a cold wind and snow, of course, on the north side, and really just an unsettled pattern going into Saturday.
March is still nor'easter month, too.
It is.
I mean, they don't have to bring snow to be a nor'easter. So we'll see where the low sets up exactly. This is the Euro. The GFS has a little farther north, but both have a coastal storm, which would be a rainmaker.
And the good news, I guess there is some silver lining here. By the end of the weekend and into early next week, things clear out. No matter which version of this, forecast you choose, we do eventually dry out. At least the back half of the weekend looks better.
Yeah, I'd say the GFS gives you a little more snow chances, maybe. If you're training for the Boston Marathon, you're trying to get one last long run in, you might be doing it in some snow if you're up in southern New Hampshire.
Stay warm.
Speaking of snow, Alex, Northern Tier's got quite a chance this week.
Rash, crawdads, or mud bugs. This is the season for the Cajun delicacy now. But this year, you might be doing less cracking and peeling. Extreme drought mixed with triple-digit heat in Louisiana has really devastated this year's harvest.
And with Lent in full swing, some families may be left with limited options to put on the dinner table. Well, earlier, we spoke to Dr. Mike Strain, the commissioner of the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry, about how the shortage is affecting the state's way of life.
Direct loss to the crawfish farmers, probably around 100 million.
Going forward here, what kind of weather do you need to have this recovery?
How has the shortage really impacted some of the recent celebrations?
Well, it's
most definitely in the mood for crawfish after
it kind
watching
of puts you in there, right?
Yes.
One of those things I've yet to try, but Jen, you have convinced me
so good
that it's something I need to at least experience.
Yeah, like a cross between lobster and like the ruby red shrimp, and I don't know, they're crawfish. They're their own thing.
Their own thing.
Yeah, the seasoning's everything though.
Oh well, I mean, isn't that the case with almost anything, right? Seasonings is so important.
Yes.
Did I just say season is seasoning?
I knew what you meant, Alex. Well, don't forget our question of the day. We are asking you: are you? A record 28 separate weather and climate disaster events hit the U.S. last year, costing nearly $93 billion in damage. And with a little bit of planning, there are ways to help ease the financial burden so you can recover quicker.
Time now to weatherproof your wallet. This is presented by AARP. First, safeguard your report.
Up there with no, railing on the edge. There's a lot to do on that roof. There's a lot of equipment.
Yes, exactly.
And you just look right over the edge.
Gotta be careful up there, right?
Oh boy, especially in that slippery snow. Okay, first full day of spring now, and it's looking and feeling more like midwinter.
The lakes, well, they are wide open, which essentially means they are not iced over, right? We just haven't seen a whole lot of ice out there, and that can really help fuel bands of snow coming off of the lakes. Although we haven't seen a ton of that this winter.
No, we just haven't had the cold air, really. And so we've got no more snow showers out there today. We're going to be watching, areas south of Buffalo, the typical snowtown areas. It's not a huge, big snowmaker, but you'll get snow.
Yeah, snow, and it's going to be windy out there as well. I mean, look at Syracuse as we get towards the rush hour, maybe 30 to 35 mile per hour winds. And if we get a snow band coming on through, visibility drops down to nothing at that point, and it could be tough for travels.
Yes, and so we'll watch that through this evening. Then we really focus in on northern New England and mainly northern Maine for getting some of the bigger wind and snow coming in as our cyclone itself moves over that area.
So things do get a chance to kind of wind down a bit once we get into Thursday, latter part of the day. You mentioned agenda here in the Maine where it hangs on a little longer, maybe some higher totals there. Much lighter across New York State.
Yeah, but everyone else, it's very unproductive snow. So, yes, there'll be snowflakes flying around, maybe even Cleveland. You could still see a few more today in lower Michigan, but you're not likely to get much accumulation.
Well, how about we check in on the threat for thunderstorms? Because, spring is upon us now, and, of course, now we start to think a little bit more about severe weather.
Yeah, we do.
We revisit our question of the day. We've been talking about extreme weather and the impact it's having on different foods and crops that are out there, and wondering if you're concerned about that, and which ones are you most concerned about?
Well, Kathy says it's hard.
It's tough. No
How about
doubt
the
about
cereal
it.
prices?
Let's not even get on that.
Alex and I send each other pictures at the grocery store because they've gotten really high with pricing.
I mean, it's almost to the point of, is this even real? This should not be a $10 cereal.
Yeah, but looking through some of the foods that are impacted by extreme weather, it's rice, it's wheat, the makings of cereal.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's tough out there. Well, you can share with us, of course. Keep voting in the poll there on Thread.